Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. So what we're going to do today is something a little bit different. And just to give you some background to it, I spend a lot of my professional life educating nascent developers who haven't done branded residences before. And I always get this look of disbelief. Is it real? Is it true? Am I really going to make a premium? Surely the costs are going to be too much. And I have to go through this mathematical equation, through this calculation with them. And I thought, let's get that calculation on stage so that everyone can see the reality of what it means to develop branded residences from a financial perspective. So that means the costs, the revenues, the sales velocities, and so on. We're going to use a fictitious example of a development in Dubai. We're going to run through the costs, we're going to run through the revenues, and we're going to look at what that means in terms of the net profit margin. So once we've got rid of all the costs from our revenues, we can really look at what the reality is. So I want to welcome up on stage 3 fantastic panelists, 2 developers, and 1 hospitality consultant, all of whom are well experienced in branded residences and have indeed developed branded residences. So if I could ask my panelists to come up and join me. Yeah. And once settled, if I could kindly ask you to just very briefly introduce yourselves, that'd be great. So Federico, should we start with you?
Sure. Hi, everyone.
Yeah.
Is it working?
It's working.
Maybe I don't even need it. So great to have you here. Last stop before the drinks. This is Federico Rota. I am the Deputy Chief Executive Officer of Alena Asset Management, which is one of the biggest family offices and real estate developers out of Abu Dhabi. We have significant investments and development pipeline. All right. Been told off. Hello? Yeah. I was saying a large investment portfolio and development pipeline. And surprise, surprise, all the projects in the foreseeable pipeline are branded residential development. So happy to tell you more about why we're doing that.
Thanks, Federico. Federico, do you want to just quickly tell us some of the brands that you've worked with?
Yeah, so close to this place, we work in the Address Beach Resort here in JBR. So one of the biggest and the first resort that Address has developed. We have recently launched in July Vida Residences in Sadia, Thailand. And more recently, 4-season private residences in Sadia Beach.
Fantastic, thank you. Yadu, could I ask you to introduce yourself?
Hi, good evening, everyone. B&W Developments, I work with B&W Developments, and we have associated with the brands in our nascent stage when we started our development journey. And now we have been announced as the biggest private developer in the Emirates of Ras Al Khaimah, where the Win Integrated Resort is coming. And we have collaborated with brands like Taj. The first we launched in April, called as Taj Wellington Muse, and then Fashion TV. We have 2 projects with Fashion TV. One is announced already and launched, which is in Al Marjan, and the second one with the Michel Haddam Tower, which is coming in Dubai. And then we have launched one more project with Wyndham Ramada Residences in Al Jaddaf. There are many more in the pipeline. We are coming with more branded residences and hotel apartments with Wyndham, with IHCL, with Radisson Blu, and a couple of more fashion brands, including, there are nascent stage, but I'll let you know during the course of our session. And we believe that branded residences concept is the real, it adds value not only for the developer in terms of the pricing and all, but also the investor confidence and also their experience. So the collaboration is not only taken into consideration as a financial aspect to it, but overall experience of the investor, the unit buyer, and he associates themselves with the brand ethos and brand standards. So we believe as a B&W that branded residences is the concept which will go for ages now, and people believe in that, and people are ready to invest in those residences.
Thank you. Thanks. And Roger.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see a full house here. My name is Roger Allen. I'm the Group CEO of RLA Global. We are a specialized advisory focused in resorts and destinations. We address granular conceptual planning and granular financial modeling in understanding all of those moving parts in hospitality in terms of the combination of rooms, entertainment, food and beverage, leisure, wellness, longevity, and how that works in combination to extract maximum value for owners and also operators. We're also a strategic consultant to EMAR. We're also engaged in the new development in Dubai World Trade Center and work across the globe.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Okay, so I'm going to stay standing up because we're going to have some slides with some facts and figures on them that I want us to run through. And the idea is that our wonderful panel here are going to act as witnesses, as testimonials to the reality of developing branded residences. So let's get straight in and, as with any calculation, there has to be some assumptions and some caveats. So we're talking about a luxury standalone branded residences here in downtown Dubai location. It's going to be a high-rise urban block, 240,000 square feet of gross buildable area and 168 square feet of net saleable area. It's going to be branded by an internationally recognized hotel brand. And this calculation doesn't include land value, it doesn't include taxes, it doesn't include abnormal costs as they may arise. And our costs, which are going to be featured here, are provided to us on a quarterly basis by a cost consultancy based here in Dubai called Delu International. Unfortunately, they couldn't be here with us today. But these figures represent construction costs as at Q2 2025. Okay, before we get into the calculation, I just wanted to set the scene. And Yadhu, you sort of alluded towards it, albeit I think you were talking more about end investors. I want to talk just a little bit about the pre-construction, the pre-development stage, and how the concept of branded residences increases that initial investment decision to invest in developing a branded residence.
So Rian, this is something that starts when you actually acquire the land, and you need to have the concept in your mind that okay, do we want it to be a branded one or not? Because starting from developing the concept, if you have your brand in your mind and you have a discussion with the brand, even if the definitive agreements are not signed, but at least you start a dialogue with them, which we do normally. And I have a person sitting here, Mr. Govind Mundra from Wyndham. We did one project where when we were acquiring that project itself, we had a discussion with Wyndham and we started looking at the costs in the first place, including the concept designing, how the design would look like, what kind of the interior guys has to be impaneled, what are the consultant designers have to be impaneled, what kind of the brand standards have to be taken into consideration, because it adds up to the cost. And then from that angle, your cost in terms of the construction, design, everything goes on a higher side. At that point in time also there is something, because that will come obviously in the slides, but there is some brand fees that you have to take into the consideration. So all those costs add up to your P&L. And at that point in time, you need to assess very clearly, okay, this is the area, this is the brand. And we talk very transparently with the brand, what is the premium that you look like if you come onto the table, what premium that you will fetch, which has to be a good number. Obviously, if I'm paying a very simple, I'm gonna tell right away that if you are spending 1x on the brand, and because of the brand you are spending now 1.5x, at least you have to make 2.5x as a premium. Otherwise, then you are not having a valuation of the brand itself. Not only for your development, but it actually gives a brand also a momentum that, okay, with this brand, this project is being sold at this value. Obviously, they added up to the cost, but that cost is not that you will not be able to make money out of it.
Yeah.
So that's how we look at it.
And Roger, maybe if you could comment on this, looking at it from a hotel owner's perspective, the existence of branded residences, that changes the cash flow profile. That changes how that development potentially is going to be funded. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how it impacts the hotel operations and the hotel reality?
Well, most certainly. I think, Dubai is really an exception where the branded residence, is a runaway success. But in a lot of developments, investors and developers always have that kind of VUCA concern, volatile and, unpredictable, complex, ambiguous. And the branded resi kind of has turned that really on its head, specifically from a win-win for the investor and the developer, and also the buyer. Because you've got, obviously, from an investor's perspective, you've got less debt that you need to take on board. You've got instant cash flow if you're selling off plan. And of course, that's an immediate benefit to both developer and investor, but also from a held value long term. Now, obviously, the branded residences is actually bringing security, confidence, predictability, which turns that VUCA approach on its head and those concerns. And I think that ultimately is also a win for the buyer, ultimately. Now, in terms from the hotel perspective, there's a lot of benefits. Number one, if you're doing a sale and leaseback model, then the hotel potentially has more room inventory that can be pulled back in. Depending on that room product, you can actually be broadening your, the audience, the guest profile. Maybe it helps with seasonality also. So that's something that is a definite plus. Obviously, what we also see is from the amenities point of view. In terms of the amenities and the service management fee that would normally have to just be, kind of fed through the ADR and the rates that you're generating and revenues from the hotel, that is shared with the residents, occupants, because you've got a service fee. Two things that I have to just put out there, though, talking from a concern point of view, and that is, the room product that you're potentially putting back into the inventory. There is a science to that. You can't create just one, apartment or, accommodation unit that you can sell without really understanding, is that a product that you can pull back into the room inventory and sell? The second thing is with amenities, and we actually see this a lot in Dubai, is where the amenities are overrun by the occupants of the residents, the hotel guests, but also the service departments, which also, can devalue and depreciate the actual value of that brand.
But, or in many cases, especially in Dubai, public access as well, putting pressure on those amenities.
Exactly. But overall, it's a win-win. What is there not to love when you can see that there is, the investors are getting immediate cash flow, the developers getting cash flow. At the end of the day, there's a held value, and the buyer ultimately is getting brand value. And you're able to get some scalability in the product and the experience that you're extending.
Yeah. Okay. So we've established from an investment perspective, just that decision of whether to build or not to build with branded residences has some additional benefits. Top-level management, ensuring that the property is going to be run properly. Increased sales values, increased sales velocities, and all of these elements come into that initial decision of let's develop. Okay, we're going to talk about costs. So, thank you very much to Delu International for providing us with our figures. So I'm going to run through this and then we'll hear from the panel. So on average, what we see is that the cost of construction, and that's construction, professional fees, and marketing, is about 13% higher to develop branded than non-branded. And that runs across mid-scale, upper upscale, upscale, and luxury. When you actually drill into it, mid-scale is about 8% more expensive, and luxury is about 18% more expensive, more or less. And the majority of that cost difference is in fit-out. Because actually, from a physical perspective, the construction of a branded residence isn't that much different from the construction of a non-branded residence. There will be different space allocations and the like, but realistically, we're talking about the same materials, we're talking about the same process of construction. So it's really in the finishes, the materials, fittings, and fixtures, the uplift in value, or cost rather, from getting better interior designers, better architects, branding agencies to work with the operator to get the message out there in a professional way. And of course, marketing, where we see that on average about 2%, and that can go up as high as 4% of the gross development value of any given phase is put into the marketing process. So when we put all those factors in, we see there's about a 17.6% cost uplift. So our first calculation, based on 240,000 square meters, that means that our branded building is going to cost 450 million dirham, and our non-branded is going to cost 380 million dirham. Federico, what do you think of those costs? Does that sound about right from your experience?
Yeah, I would say the cost uplift is in the right range. From our experience, we've seen between 10 to 20%. However, maybe half of this amount is coming from furnishing. Many of the brands require furnished units, especially if there is any kind of rental program or pool associated with that. So that brings cost and timelines longer. And another thing that is not clear, is a bit hidden, is the public amenities. Typically, branded residential properties have larger than non-branded properties amenities, like the spas, the wellness, the golf simulator, and all of these activities that at the end consume your GFA. And it's a hidden cost that you have that has to be recovered by the other
The
units.
loss of square meters.
Exactly. Typically, we've seen, it depends, of course, on the scale, on the size of the development, but around 1.5% to 2% of the GFA is consumed in excess of what you will do if it was unbranded. Yep. For the and it's amenities and back of house, because again, it's all about the servicing of the units that require.
So it's more about the space allocation rather than the cost of that allocation increasing.
I think it's both. I think it's first you need more space, and the quality of that space is more expensive. It depends on the brands, of course, but when you work with a Four Seasons, of course, you're going to pay top money in the public areas and amenities, and even the back of house compared to what you would do otherwise.
It's interesting. It's often a big surprise to our clients, our developer clients, that building a luxury branded residence is actually going to net you less profit than building a premium branded residence in many cases, because of that cost of development, and that fit out finish just really ramps up at that luxury level. Yadhu, is this again a sort of number or an area that you feel is part of your experience?
Yeah, whatever has been given on the presentation and Roger has said, I think so. I fully endorse that. Whenever we start talking with the brand, even if you have done the commercial part of this, what is the brand fee, what is this? The most important negotiation is on the front office, back office, public amenities, what is the GFA being consumed? Because rightly said, because every square meter you lose, you are not selling it. And that is again a cost burden. And obviously constructing that and making it beautiful, making it up to the standards of brand adds to the cost, but eating up the GFA, the saleable area, is the straight cost that is coming on your head. So like we as a group, we always discuss with the brand very transparently in the first place and say that, please, let's divide into two categories, what is must to have, what is good to have. Because see, to be honest, everyone is a good negotiator, right? Someone else always say that, okay, I want this also, I want this also, I want this also, but there is always a thin line difference of good to have and must to have. Must to have is something that is non-negotiable to uplift the brand standards, to make that luxury or premium luxury, whatever the way we say it, depending on the brand to brand. But sometimes those conversations, those negotiations really make the value up and down. Because if you lose more GFA, then there is a problem. But if you are giving the GFA to that extent which is okay for this particular project, like he said that the public areas, the amenities get more bogged with the number of people staying in that, and it reduces the value of that asset. That should not have happened. And that should be in the must to have, that at least this much has to be done. Like there is a kind of a thumb rule, I don't know whether others are agreeing to that, that if you are going into the upper scale luxury, at least one unit should have 1200 to 1300 or 1400 square footage in the total, even if that unit is of 600 square foot. But overall, the GFA per unit should be like that. This is kind of a normal parlance which the brands work. And you have to be very clear in the first place when you are adding into a hotel apartments or branded residency, are you ready to leave that GFA? And if you are ready, what kind of premium that you will have it? That's very important.
Yeah, if you're going to lose square meters, you need to make sure that the meters that are used for something else add value to the other square meters that you are going to sell. Okay, great. So that's the hard cost side of this calculation. So now we're going to look at the other side of the equation, the revenues. So here we are. We're in downtown Dubai, Business Bay type of area. This is where our project is. And we looked at the sales performance of other branded residential projects in that area. Cross-section of luxury branded residences from different operators and all in the area of our site. And then we looked at the values of non-branded properties, all luxury non-branded properties as well. So trying to keep that comparison as similar as possible. And we've got a spread of values for the branded from just over 3,000 AED a square foot up to 6,300 a square foot. So quite a range. But on average, what we see is that the non-branded average comes in at just over 3,000 dirham a square foot. The branded comes in at 4,400 per square foot, which shows in at least that area of Dubai a brand premium, and this is an unweighted brand premium. So this is just comparing per square meter values, not making any adjustments or any weights and measures to get it even more on parity. But we're looking at a premium of 39% for branded residences in Business Bay. And that's very interesting, as you obviously all remember from my previous presentation. That's about bang on the global average of 37%. So when we put that into our calculation, we've got 168,000 square foot, and our branded GDV comes out at 743 million. And our non-branded comes out at 537 million. So for those of you who are paying attention to the numbers, you can already see a very big delta, a very big difference between the value and the cost difference between branded and non-branded, which will become even more clear in a moment. Federico, part of what you do is also selling your properties. Why don't you tell us from your perspective, and maybe it'd be interesting to think about some of the different brands and your experiences of those, whether it's hospitality or non-hospitality. What was your reality of the sales process? And I want to particularly think about things like sales velocity, sales premiums, target profiles, and things like that.
Let me start with it's complicated. First, it depends a lot project by project. As you have discussed in your previous session and is on this chart, once you don't have comparables nearby, the premium can reach the sky. And this is what we have witnessed with one of our projects, which has a unique location that cannot be matched by anything else. But in general, it's hard to say what is the premium coming from the brand versus the location of the plot, which you will pay in acquiring the plot, which is not included in the calculation. On the selling side, again, it's complicated. You will have the brand recognitions and the brand collectors will help a lot with absorption at the beginning. But the headwind that you're facing is that, especially when you play in the luxury space, brands will always push you for a higher unit mix. So they don't want the studios, they don't want the one bedrooms, they want 2, 3, 4 bedrooms. And guess what? They also want them big. So you start to have average sizes very large. Add a higher price per square foot, and you end up with something that is maybe 30, 40, 50% more expensive than a same 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom in the surrounding area. So what do? It gets tricky to shift it if you have a lot of stock. So then is where you need to be smart about your pricing, you need to be dynamic to the market conditions and appetite, and you need to work with agencies that have the right network on the buyers that you're looking to attract. And unfortunately, you need to pay commissions that are very high in this time of the market when there is a lot of branded residencies competing for the same buyers.
Yadhu, similarly in terms of, I'd be interested to know, because you've got a mix of hoteliers and non-hoteliers, how have you found that sales process? Have you seen a different velocity depending on which type of brand it was, or any nuances around that?
No, I totally agree what Federico said, that it's complicated because the first thing, the unit mix. I'm just adding what he said. Unit mix is something, again, very hard negotiation in the first place, because brands want bigger units. And if you, say for example, you are selling at a 2,000 dirham per square foot and you add up 25-30% premium, you add up 2,500 or 2,600, but the unit size is big, then your ticket size per unit becomes too heavy, that the buyer would say that, okay, am I getting that much benefit? But having said that, if your unit mix is good, but you add the premium on that much manner that the unit buyer is comfortable with, your sales velocity is very, very good. So we have launched 2 projects. One was Taj in April, and then we launched Fashion TV in May. We are sitting in October. October is ending. Almost 6 months for Taj and almost 4 months or 5 months for Fashion TV. We have sold 75% of the projects. So there is a huge potential. And like he said about the location, in the same location we had a similar project which was non-branded. If we were selling at, say for example, I'm just putting a hypothetical number, at X price, but for Taj and Fashion TV at approximately 25 to 30% we increased our prices.
Can I just ask a question here? Is there an incentive from the developer side to hold back on some of the inventory on the basis that if you hold on, you'll get a better premium 1 year down the line, or is it just sell out?
It's a very relevant question and area of debate on a daily basis. When the market is going up with the speed that it's been over the last few years, you always think, maybe I keep everything until the end, why not? Or I phase it very long. But at the same time, we are developers. You want to the risk, you want to get it done. Anyway, you make your money, you move to the next one. So it's this trade-off of extracting the value versus moving faster into the next project. Mm-hmm. And it was discussed in one of the previous sessions. We feel it's also important to leave some meat on the bone. This was the language used in the panel, in the sense that you want to make everyone win. Is the developer, of course, is the brand with their fees, but also the buyer. Majority of the buyers, as we said, are off-plan investors at the time they commit to a new project. So they need to make sure that their commitment is protected. That will give much more attention and attraction to the project than just the brand, I would say.
Okay, so let's get to the next piece of the calculation, the branding fees. So the branding fees are made up of a number of different line items. The first and most, well, depending on whose perspective you're taking, most impactful fee is the license fee. And this is the fee that a brand is paid in order to grant a license to use their brand during the sales and marketing process. And it can range depending on where you are in the world. It can range depending on what type of brand you're dealing with. It can range depending on how important, prime, or strategic that location is. But it tends to range somewhere between about 3% and 6%. So we've gone for 4% in this case. So based on our GDV for branded, we're going to be paying the brand 29.7 million AED. Then we've got the technical services fees. Technical services fees are paid to the brand in order for their design and construction teams to liaise with your architects, your engineers, and your various consultants in order to make sure that the building is built on brand and is compliant with the regulations and the standards that the brand puts forward. That is a non-reimbursable fee and is for what I would call real work. So that's 750,000 AED. Then we've got marketing support fees, and we'll come on to talk about all of these fees with the guys in just a second, but then we've got the marketing support fee, so that's for the brand and their marketing teams to work with your sales agents and marketing teams to make sure that the messaging is on brand, to make sure the sales center is on brand, and to make sure that everything is being done in a brand compliant way. Generally speaking, that fee is reimbursable against the license fees later on down the line. So that's a cost-covering fee that the brand puts forward. Some of the brands like to ask for legal fee contributions, some don't. Usually will depend on that brand's knowledge of that market or their existing presence there and whether they need to sort of gen up themselves on what's going on. Finally, management fees in the case of a hotel brand who are going to be managing your homeowners association, who are going to be providing elements of facilities management and programming to your buyers. And then finally, something that we're seeing a little bit more these days are sales referral fees. So this is where the operator will ask for a fee if they refer a buyer to you as the developer or your sales team. And they will usually ask for 1% to 2% in addition to the rest of their fees if they provide those buyers. So we put that all together and we come out to a total branding cost of 30.6 million dirham. Okay, what I want to touch on with the guys here is the importance of these fees and the services that sit behind them. Because in many cases, this can just look like, oh, we're just giving the operator money for nothing. But the reality is that there's a lot that goes behind it. So let's start off, and whoever wants to come in, feel free. Let's start off with technical services fees, because that's a really important part of that pre-construction phase, getting the building right. Federico, any scare stories, any anecdotes you can give us?
Technical services fees are probably money well spent, because again, especially for us, we work with hospitality brands because we see the operations and the service and the peace of mind of the owners is what will drive the premium of the project. And the experience that a sophisticated luxury hospitality operator has in the arrangement of spaces, common areas, back of house areas, is unbeatable. We develop hotels, but we don't pretend to know the nitty-gritty details of how to plan it in an efficient way. So that is surely money very well spent. On the other hand, what I wanted to add is it doesn't matter how the negotiations start. All of these things are negotiable. Yeah. This is from our experience. And we found out that brands are not only thinking about money, they also think about the success of the project. So with few of our negotiations, for example, we had different tiers of license fee. The first billion dirham is at this level, the second billion at this level, the third billion at that level. So that makes it, gives them their income quickly, and then the rest, they still benefit, but for us, it's an incentive to keep pushing up prices and sales. Or similarly, what is very important is the payment timeline of these fees. Because some brands are a bit over greedy, I would say, asking, of course, payments of the full fees at booking when this cash is not available because the money you get goes in the escrow, and I cannot release it from the escrow to pay their license fees.
Just to add there on the technical service fees, it is important. It's a necessary evil, I agree. However, you just have to make sure that the operators, you're not paying them to actually recommend consultants to do the job. There has to be some transparency there in what they're actually delivering.
And there's also a difference between brand input and brand supervision. That's one of the things that I've found. Often developers get really annoyed that the brand isn't giving them more. All they're doing is saying yes or no to what's been put in front of them. And I think that's across technical services and across marketing as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've been lucky with the brands we've worked with. and they brought a lot of operational important things that if you don't tackle them at design, you destroy value later down the line.
Yadu, maybe let's talk a little bit about the marketing element of it, getting your website right, getting your brochures right, staying on brand. How have your experiences of that been working with operators?
This is absolutely right, because when you're going to market this project, you have to send the clear and right message to the unit buyers and investors. See, at the outset, if you know the brand, okay, I know this brand, but you don't know the real input of that brand. The marketing fees actually is for that, and they give you the real how to present this brand, how to present this project. You yourself have your marketing team and all, but they give you the brand ethos, which really adds value, and it adds confidence to the unit buyer. Okay, this is really good. This is something. So when we collaborated with hospitality brands, and in fact, during our conversations, we had a training session internally from the brands about their brand, what their brand is all about, what we should say, what we should not say, because like we were talking about sale and leaseback structure. There are many places or projects where developers tend to give the guaranteed ROI. But this is not the real world. You have to have that kind of a risk there on your head then, as a developer or as an operator. So that is very clear that you should not give a guaranteed ROI irrespective. You can say that, okay, this is the likely prediction that we might achieve, but there can be a pitfall. So all those things really, they are working. They are not just saying that, okay, do this, I should look like, the brochure should look like this, but no. The real aspects of the marketing, the real aspects of the investor confidence, the real aspect of getting to the real information of the project. And also, just to tell you, we were talking about the technical service fees, and I have a very good example that when we were collaborating with Taj and we were talking about our technical thing and all, they came up with a very beautiful idea, their technical team. Let's do this, which actually we took 25, 30 days more to launch, because that idea really made that project more viable, even for us as a developer, not only for the brand to do that thing, but this was very good idea.
Can you tell us what the idea was?
So like we talked about the unit mix and all, it was a hotel apartment. We had certain space for the kitchen. And they came up and they said that let's reduce the size of kitchen, and because in the front office and back office and the common areas, you have 3 restaurants. Let's play around in the F&B play, and you'll get the more F&B revenue if you have a smaller kitchen, because ultimately, you know what I'm trying to say. So that really helps, and that reduces the size of units, and we had more units. And then we had more units, and then your ticket price per unit goes less, and your sales velocity goes in a increased trend. So eventually, if you see the spiral effect, you added 2 values: your sales velocity, your sales premium, everything on a green side, and plus your F&B revenue on a green side, which will add into the overall project value. So these kind of things, it's not only about saying that, okay, it should look like that. There are certain aspects to it. And rightly mentioned about the license fees. To be honest, license fees, cash flow mechanism is very important. So that's from my side.
The timings of them. Okay, I'm being told to stop, which is great because we're on the final slide. Where'd my final slide go?
The profit.
There it is. Okay, so now we're going to bring it all together just in time. So we had our total costs up there. Our build cost, 449 and 382 in the comparison. Our branding fees, 30.6 million for the branded scheme, nothing for the non-branded scheme. So we've got total cost of 480 million for the branded scheme versus 382 million for the non-branded scheme. So you're looking at a total of a 26% cost uplift from branding. Our gross development value that we calculated, 743 million for the branded scheme, 537 for the non-branded scheme, so a 39% cost uplift. So, bringing it all together, our profit, 263 million for the branded scheme, 155 million for the non-branded scheme, which equates, drum roll please, to 108 million net profit margin increase, which equates to 69%. Now, we gave this presentation about 3 months ago in London with our good friends at Taylor Wessing, and we did a London example of this, and that net profit margin in London came out to 26%. So that net profit margin will vary depending where you are in the world, depending on the cost, depending on the brands, depending on the values that are there. But I do not know a developer in the world who doesn't want 25 to 69% more profit after all costs are taken into account. And without being too dramatic, this is what is driving the growth. This, we can talk about as many things as we want, but that number at the end is what is driving this market. 69% more profit, as briefly as you can. What do you think? Did you make that much more profit?
Again, it's really project by project comparable, but I'm not shocked by the number.
You're not shocked?
I'm not shocked by the number.
Totally agree. Nobody wants to tell that their profit margins, but to be honest, this is true. You will add into the profit margins. Again, it depends on location, the brand. The four most important is what brand you are bringing into the table and what amenities you are bringing on the table. Is the customer ready to pay that premium? Then your profitability, because cost is normally here and there 5% up inside with the brand coming X or Y, but the premium is something that really adds value to this profitability.
Yeah, makes all the difference. Roger, last word.
I don't know. I mean, a show of hands. Who would invest in this type of development? There you go. I think that's one of those drop the mic moments.
And leave. Yeah. I wanted to get this up on screen because I wanted to help to illustrate a reality that within the majority of cases, the vast majority of cases, the uplift in value of branded residences is so much greater than the uplift in cost because we're inflating a smaller base figure by a smaller multiplier. And then in our values, we're increasing a much bigger figure by a much bigger multiplier. So you have to get it really wrong to take that 69% down to 0 and make it not worth you having done it. I want to thank the panel. I want to thank you all for listening. Do come and say hello.